Now I can put the shutter blades in place. First thing I do, I'll unhook the return spring from the blade and the lever on the blade actuating ring so that the blade actuating ring is in the blade's open position, and then fit the shutter blades. Now the first shutter blade is distinguished because it has an extra hole in the blade. There's 3 holes. All the shutter blades apart from that have 2 holes. And the first blade goes here. There's no other difference in that blade other than the extra hole. There's nothing that serves no function other than letting you know it's the first blade. I'm not convinced it would make much difference. That's our 5 blades in position, and now I can lower the shutter case over the top. Now the shutter case only goes on one way. I've got to find the correct way. There are 3 holes that the screws run through. They're not equidistant. 2 of them are closer together, so that's here and here, and the one further apart will be over here, so I can lower this into position, check that the 3 screw holes are lined up, and they are, and fit the screws. Just do the screws up lightly, don't tighten them up, in case one of the shutter blades was displaced while I was lowering that case over the top. You don't want to trap a shutter blade between a pin and the case and end up damaging the blade. Let's run those screws down lightly. Flip it over and check that the blade's closed, and they don't. Something had fallen out of place. One of those blades had moved. Let's do that little operation again. Check that's in the blade open position. And start with blade number 1. Blade number 2. Blade number 3, blade number 4, and blade number 5, and have another go at this. It over. This time we're correct. All the blades are correctly positioned. Put the spring in place, and the shutter's nice and snappy now. That's good. when we started, of course, the blades wouldn't close. It was impossible for them to close under there. Under the force of the spring, they were just glued in place with all the old oil. And that oil had dried out. It had gone like a lacquer in some places. So it had lost all its volatiles a long time ago. The problem was probably one of long standing. This camera could have been sitting idle in a cupboard for 3 or 4 decades, no problem at all. Right, so far so good. Now I just need to assemble all the upper control gear to the mechanism plate. First I'll install the flash sync post. It was held in position with 2 screws. One, the normal screw you'd expect to find in that position. Let's do that up very lightly. And then the second one right here on the edge of the case. Do those screws up. Now, the flash sync stuff. The pallet wheel goes on here. Now one side of that pallet wheel has slightly rounded edges. The other side is quite sharp edges. The rounded edges should be upwards at this stage. And the wheel that drives all of this little cam wheel here, I'm just going to run a touch of molybdenum paste around the toe of that cam, around that piece here. That's so the lever that runs on there and operates the flash sync moves smoothly. So that's all that's required there. You can see as this turns, the pallet ratchets backwards and forwards. Now I want to put a spring in. This spring here is the 500th of a second spring for the shutter. That looks after provides the extra spring tension to allow the shutter to give something like a 500th of a second speed. It's never quite as quick as that in practice, but that's what it's labelled for. And our flash sync lever goes in here. There's a little post it fits over. I've got to make sure that the contact is on the right side of the fixed contact. And it is. Drop in that single screw and run that screw up. Take care at this stage to make sure that the arm is not sitting on top of that cam. Otherwise you could bend the arm when you do the screw up. Just checking that that's all good. And as that cam revolves, you'll see that it operates the flash contact at that point. That's good. And I need to get the rest of the flash sync stuff in place. This little flash sync lever is 2 pieces and they're just held together by the action of a small spring underneath here. So they'll often come apart while you're working on the shutter. It's a bugger to get that back in place. See if I can do it. It sits there, and then I've got to flip this over so I can get to the spring on the other side and hook it in position. I'm holding that together with one pair of tweezers. The loose end of the spring is here. I've got to lift that round behind this tab. The other end of the spring is supposed to be tucked around that post. It is now, it wasn't before. And there is our lever complete. Before I put this into the shutter, I want to put a wipe of molybdenum paste on this sharp tip. It's where it latches behind the lever. We need it to latch in smoothly and release smoothly. So far so good. Back to the shutter. I'll lift this into place. I've got to be careful here not to disturb this top piece because it's only loose, of course. Drop that in. And that couples to this cam here. And I'm looking at the position of that to get the timing right. Now, at that point, I've got this lever back against this post, so it can't swing inwards at that end or out at this end, and this lever slides along the side of that cam. The toe of the cam is here. This is running along the slide, and it passes that without any problem. That's good. So that is all correctly set. And I've got to fit the spring for this in place now. This is a bit of a job. So I've got to hook it into that hole there, stretch it out and over this pin. So that's correctly done. That even went fairly smoothly as these things go. We have our two brass spacers that sit there and there. That's where the screws pass through from the plate that holds this all in position. Now we need that plate. Here we have the plate, and I need to get it seated correctly. There's a little tab on the plate which actually hooks into a slot at this point. So this is only medium impossible to do. And it fits over the top of the post there. And that should be sitting in front of that lever there. I don't know why that's bouncing. Nothing serious, I think. Let's get a screw in place at the end. That's good, everything seems to move freely enough. XM sync lever has to go underneath that spring. Of course it doesn't want to. Normally that's not a problem. The spring seems to be sit a bit lower than normal, that's all. That's better. And the screw runs through the lot, through the lever, through the top plate, through that brass standoff spacer that we fitted earlier. That's good. And I haven't tightened that screw yet. I've got to get this spring in place and not there. The spring has to be on the other side of that pin. Bugger. That's better. That's correctly placed now. Do that screw back up. Check that that lever can pivot correctly. And that spring provides the detent for this lever. That's all good. It's blowing out a bit of stray graphite powder that I saw there. Next, let's check that screw's done up tight. Yeah, it is. The B lever. The B lever's job, of course, is to hold the shutter blades open when the shutter is set to B. Start that screw. The springs come off this screw. That's not uncommon and it's not the end of the world. We can fight it into place. Now my screwdriver is magnetic, so it's causing me grief here. Run that screw down, check that that moves smoothly. It does. Tighten that screw up. Now the spring. The spring fits over that screw. First I'll get it over the screw, then I'll set the ends in position. That's okay. Move that over there out of the way for the moment. I want to get this end of the spring behind the lever at this point. Nope. That just sprung off into space. I've just lost my spring. Pause for a minute while I find it. Right, you can all stop looking. This is the tool you need for finding things like that, a big magnet. Quick wipe over the entire room and the spring was recovered. Now let's see if I can get it in position without losing it. It's in position. Let's get the end of it in position. No, it's very reluctant. That's it. The end is in position. The springs have two ends, so I've got to get the other end in its position, which is on the other side of this lever. That's it. Why is that tight? A bit of extra reluctance there, something sticking. Oh, it's just that. Okay. That's fine. Everything working as it should. The shutter release can go back in at this stage. The shutter release lever. I'm just manipulating the spring on this into place because it was not located around that stud correctly, and I don't know why that should be. This is an odd shaped spring. It has to hook down behind there. It's almost like it was an afterthought that they made the rest of the shutter and then wondered about how they were going to put a return spring on that lever. And now this lacks only the main drive lever. I'm just checking the action of this shutter. It all looks good. I'll clean the main drive lever and I should be good to go, or clean and lubricate. The main drive lever here is unusually chrome plated. Normally they are nickel plated. Don't recall seeing a chrome plated one before. So I wipe around the inside with some molybdenum paste, and I wipe around the outside in the same way. You need very little molybdenum, just leaving a dirty mark as much as anything else with it. On the bird pawl, I'll put some on the bird pawl, some on that tail end there where it runs around the track. And in the shutter itself, I'll put some on this lever, on the retard gear train, some on that lever that operates the pallets, some here and here. That's it. So I'm going to cock that shutter by pulling that lever across. Drop the spring down into that gap. That B lever was blocking it, of course. Pull back the pallets and the operating lever on the retard gear train where they're blocking that action. Something's binding up here to the spring. Put its spring in place. It feels okay. There's one more spring here. It goes in behind this lever. That shutter should be good to go. So I'll clean the speed cam plate, which closes the front of the shutter as well, really. The speed setting cam plate. Wipe round the inside, wipe round here where it contacts the pins on the retard gear train, and some in here where this 500th of a second speed spring runs. That should be it. Pull back the B lever so it's not trapped underneath. Drop the plate into place. Now at that stage the shutter should be set to B, and it is. Here we should get roughly 1 second. Here we should get roughly a 10th. Here we should get roughly a 25th. 100th, 250th, and if we bring this all the way around, engaging the spring here, the 500th of a second speed spring, then cock the shutter, we should get a 500th, or thereabouts. That seems pretty good to me. So that is ready to have the front put back in place. That had its little screw that held all that together, didn't it? And have I still got that? Yes, I do. That's lucky. Let me clean this piece up and put it back in place. Alright. Let's find the right place to start this. That bayonet's in there. Rotate that clockwise slightly to line up our lock screw position. Rotate the lock screw into position. And our aperture setting should couple here. Can I get that over there? I might have to muck with that. Let's try something else. See if I can lift that over there. That's better. Then bayonet that into position. That's better. Do up our lock screw. Put our little coupling screw in here that holds that together. There we have it. So that's our aperture coupled so that you can see the aperture scale on the top of the shutter. Our shutter speeds, obviously. The cocking lever on the shutter. And everything's good to go. We have a lever that goes, this fixture goes on the back of the shutter. The lenses, of course. I'll put that fixture on there now. That was pretty gummy from memory. Oh yes, that piece is the coupling. It's the rangefinder coupling. And the rangefinder coupling goes here. And it can only go around one way, so even I can't lose that. Those screws are unusually tight. It's almost like they were self-tappers. Here we go. The lenses I'll need to clean. Alright. The rear group. Just do that up with my fingers. It certainly doesn't need any more than that. Now looking at this, I can see a little bit of black paint here where someone's touched up that edge of that lens there with some black paint, and it's gone through onto the lens. So I'm going to see if I can get that off. Let's just dip a toothpick into some acetone and just see if that'll come away. It's pretty reluctant. That's better, and the same on the other side. That would have been someone leaning into the back of the camera with a fat brush, I'd say. It's only a tiny amount of the lens obscured, of course. It wouldn't make any real difference on the image. I like to get things as good as I can. It's good. Oh, at the back, what did we have? We had a shim or two, didn't we? Were they located? Yes, there was a pin there that locates that. And there were two of them. Where's the other one gone? Oh, it'll turn up in a second. At the front of the shutter, the front lens group. It should just screw in. To do that up tight with my fingers. You don't need to put a tool on or anything like that on it. I'll just check that that front surface is as clean as I can get it. The front surface on a camera as old as this is often in less than stunning condition. It'll have been cleaned by the ends of neckties, all sorts of other things. I can see some marks on the inside surface of that, so I'm just going to spin that off and have a go at that. Yes, neckties, handkerchiefs, t-shirts, and failing that, there's always a thumb. That's better. That's not 100%, it's 99%, and 99% is very, very good. So, thanks for watching.